and welcome to the Psychic Kitchen podcast. Today we have Tanya Powell of adventuresforconnection.com. How you doing, dear?
I'm awesome. You said my name right.
Yes. It's a hard one for me. I'm not good with names. I never have been.
That's all right. And you keep claiming it. Yeah. Hey, Jimmy.
So,
It's rolling, brother.
Yeah. So, Tanya, wonderful of you to be here, obviously. It was wonderful to be a guest on your Adventures for Connection podcast that we did, I don't know, last year, at the end of last year.
It feels like about a year ago. There's a lot of, I'm like, oh, we need to bring Jimmy back on. Oh, we need to get Thomas back on because absolutely. It's fun to play together.
Indeed. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what Adventures for Connection is and all of that, and just give us a little background.
Absolutely. So I'm an entrepreneur and I run one of my businesses is actually a painting company, a house painting company. And I bootstrapped it to a point where I was doing most things. And I had that father that said, oh, you're never going to mount anything. And I went, I'm going to show you. And so I had that masculine drive energy to go. I can do it myself. And I hit a wall and I was like, oh, this isn't working anymore. Because you hit a growth point in a business and without systems in place and support, it gets really challenging, let's just say. So I had adrenal fatigue. I was exhausted. I just kept saying, I'm so busy. And I ended up bringing in, doing a coaching program and getting a master coach to work with. And in doing that, he just smiled at me and says, so everything you're saying, you're just telling your brain what to do for you. And it was like a light bulb went off and I'm like, oh, I'm the common denominator. And so that was a really epiphany point for me, which took me down a lot of personal development because just seeing him every couple of weeks wasn't enough. I like, let's go, let's figure this out. And I ended up in Mind Valley, which is a personal development program, and ended up being a master certified trainer with them for a couple of years and constantly evolving and shifting and, reprogramming the brain, so to speak, and belief systems, breaking those down. And I went to one event and I kind of hit a wall with that one too, because I was like, it's not how I would have done this. So you start to have incongruency with what you're doing. And being an entrepreneur, I really don't bode well when somebody tells me you need to do it like this, say it like this, and be like this. And I went, no, I'm out. And so I'm pretty quick to pull my energy back around that stuff. But it was a beautiful experience and it taught me a lot. And what I learned in hosting those seminars was that nobody came for the seminar content. They were all coming for connection. They were all desiring to connect with like-minded people. So we popped them all into a circle and just have conversations. So we did cover the content because I needed to and have proof of that. But we definitely spent way more time just in a circle and chatting. And so it made me realize that way more people are looking for connection. And there's many more of us down this spiritual path, so to speak, than even we are aware of at this point, which is quite beautiful.
Indeed.
I feel like the subconscious mind is the key to everything. I keep getting this message over and over, and I keep running away from it. But it's
quite fast, isn't it?
It seems to be the key component that no one really wants to look at is you're being run by the very systems that you've put in your mind or the traumas. I just remember this guy had a near-death experience when he was a kid. And when he remembered it later in life, he was visited by an Elohim as a kid. And he said, essentially Elohim was like, you have this divine blueprint. And as subconsciously, when you go through this, like any trauma, into your divine blueprint. And then it's got to be pulled out. So any trauma you have goes into this subconscious divine blueprint. And I feel like that is the key, whether it's Tony Robbins or Jordan Peterson or any of these teachers. Like dealing with that will start to deal with every issue.
Absolutely. People are not aware of the subconscious. And so having done a course on that, it just helped me to understand the brain more and where people were at and how to better support people. And so your subconscious, if you look at your brain as the CPU or your mind as the CPU, your thoughts, and then your subconscious is the programming. And you're neither. You're the one observing all of that. You're not the one speaking. You're not the one thinking. You're the one observing that. And so the
Mm.
subconscious is built up from ages 1 to 7. It's meant to keep you safe. It only knows you. It doesn't know anything else. And it observes millions of pieces of information per second. So you're not, you drive and you get somewhere and you're like, oh, I don't remember driving here. That's part of the subconscious. It just,
Mm.
it knows what to do. And so as we go through life, we don't realize we don't know what we don't know until we know. And then once you know, you can't unknow. So in knowing that your subconscious programming is running your life, and every time you come up against something that is change, you get this little like, oh, we don't know this. And it gives you this little angst over it, or maybe some true fear around it, because it's just telling you, we don't know this. We're trying to keep you safe. We don't know what's going on. Or you watch a movie and you get so invested in the movie, your brain, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between the reality and the movie, because whatever you're observing, it's taking in as reality. It doesn't know the difference. And so I won't even watch. Like, my daughter loves scary movies. I'm like, no, not for me. Thanks. I don't need to watch any of that.
I've never liked horror films or scary movies. There's just something about them that I don't really feel. I don't want to connect with
No,
that. Not that I'm
no.
scared of it. It's just I don't necessarily want that in my reality or whatever.
Right. So we went to the theater and she begged me to go see it with her. So I went and watched it, and I spent the entire time laughing my ass off because I thought it was so funny. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. Like, what's go? But if you had a fear of clowns, I suppose it would have meant something. But I was like, I was trying not to laugh because I went in the theater. I'm having these little giggles under my breath. But yeah, so your subconscious can be reprogrammed. That's the good news. You can, through small habitual changes and small steps every day, and observing your thoughts, and even going quiet for 5 minutes and just observe, put a timer on, observe those thoughts that are coming through. And when you come out of that, when the timer goes off, then you can go ahead and write down the most consistent thoughts that came through. And it'll start to show you a pattern. And then you can also do affirmations to change it, gratitude. All those things are very beneficial and very helpful, because when you first, it starts with the thought, right? And then you speak it, and then you take action, and that's how we manifest. So if your thoughts are constantly negative and you're in that loop, you got to break out of it. And the only way to break out of it is for you to agree, one, you got an issue, right? That you want to change something, and two, to put small intentional steps towards it each day, even like sticky notes on the wall, right? Whatever affirmation you need to have for you. And just taking those steps and realizing nobody's broken. Nobody needs fixing. We're all perfect as we are, having this soul, having a human experience. And it just is. And so I know it sounds like word speak when I say it, but it was something to go through for me, that it was like, oh, it's all happening for me, not to me. I'm no longer the victim, that little triangle that you get going. You're the perpetrator, you're the victim, or you're the rescuer. And we were really programmed into that loop. And so once you can stop and be the observer, and even bite your tongue to not react to something and instead wait and respond, you really start to shift things. Yeah. And meditations can really, really help with that, whether they're guided. I know Thomas does a bunch of work with people in that realm as well. And you've got great frequencies. So, it's a beautiful combination.
Do you feel like affirmations will work for everyone? Because I've seen, obviously, if they work for everyone, then I think everyone would do them, possibly. But do you think there are certain tools that work best for some people and not for others? Like there are different ways to there are always different techniques and tools, and some people are drawn to one thing, some people are drawn to another, sound, etc. But I wonder whether affirmations are a universal thing. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. It depends on if you're just using it as word speak, or you actually wholeheartedly believe. So it's, again, to break that programming down first that's in the subconscious, so that you can create an affirmation that resonates with you. And quite often when I'm doing guided meditations, I will say affirmations and I'm commanding them. So there's a difference between, oh, I really want na, versus I claim this as my birthright now. I claim that my mind is clear. I am whole, healed, and healthy. Done.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I remember seeing something once that said affirmations will only work if you believe what you want or what you're saying is achievable. Like if someone were to say, I had an affirmation that they want to live in Barbados or something like that, or they want an astronomical amount of money. If they don't necessarily positively believe that that's possible to get, then it won't happen. So it's kind of about what's believable to you in your current state. So start small and work up, sort of thing.
Start small. Start small, and have gratitude when you make a step. And I did it. I made that little step, because then you give yourself a dopamine hit as well. I think when you're talking about manifestation, right, which is that bigger picture that everyone's trying to manifest, it's really about the feeling, and may this or something greater happen. And I just let things go, because I'm like, I know I'm operating the right way, and everything unfolds. And again, gratitude when those little observations have like a confirmation hit to them, right? To remember to have that gratitude, and get out in nature, take a break. There's so much beauty around us that people get so caught up in I should, I could, I would, what they need to do, versus sometimes just being and allowing what needs to come through for them to come through.
Yeah, totally. What about the subconscious? How the subconscious and dreams? Is in your experience or in your knowledge, is dreams a portal to the upper subconscious? Shall we say? Does the subconscious come out to play in dreams and show us stuff, or is dreams a whole nother thing?
I think dreams can, for me, in my personal opinion, dreams are a combination of things. I think sometimes it's another timeline, especially if it's a completely different place and nothing's relative. And if it's memories of something that's happened in the past week, or from childhood, it's something you need to look at within the subconscious that's coming up. And so we store all our subconscious back in here. And as we're all being activated right now, right, by having extra photons and going through the photon belt and light codes and all these good energies that are coming in, that are vibrating things out for us to look at, so we can clear the vessel, in my opinion. A lot of that can be the subconscious or trauma that needs to be looked at. So
why do the strangest or weirdest people show up in our dreams that we haven't seen for years, or we only saw briefly? And do you ever have that where people show up in your dreams and you think, why the hell were they there? I've got nothing to do with them anymore, or what have you? And they weren't even there in the context in which you knew them. They were completely different to something else. It's madness.
Is it?
Well, not really, but you know what I mean. It seems like, but it's not.
It seems like, why?
So we don't understand it fully. But
Thomas can probably speak to this too. But in my opinion, that's like every time you meet someone and you hang out with them for a bit, it starts a little energy line there, right? Like a bit of a timeline going on. And so I find a lot of those, I call my energy back to myself all the time, especially when I travel. And I find that some of those are possible timelines. That's just my take on it. Thomas, what's yours?
Well, I've been playing with this theory. So a lot of people ask me dream interpretation. They're like, I was like, I'm not a dream interpreter. I have no idea. But what I do lately, first I tried subliminals at night. I didn't like that. I tried that for a while, like a couple months. Then I'm doing Ho'oponopono loops of like 8 hours. But I've noticed my dreams have gotten so much more positive as I'm listening to Ho'oponopono loops over and over again. And I was like, okay, the subliminals will work. But as you said, Jim, your brain has to accept them as a fact. And they're being run so fast that I don't think your brain can comprehend what's going on. So I was like, okay, I don't think the subliminals will work. But this will work. Because as I've been doing this for 2 days, I've had much more positive dreams. Last night, I didn't even know what happened. I was talking to he didn't even like, and we were making things okay. And I was listening to some punk band in the middle of the wilderness. It didn't make any sense, but it wasn't a nightmare. It was like, it wasn't a nightmare. I was like, well, this is working. So I'm just going to keep doing it.
I remember when I learned about the subliminal and listening to stuff while you sleep. So I used to listen to frequencies while I sleep when I first got into frequencies 4 or 5 years ago. But then I thought, well, what else can we do? So I thought, well, I'd really love to learn Spanish. Maybe I'll listen to some Spanish lessons while I sleep. And then, and however long I'll wake up and I'll be fluent in Spanish because, I give it about a month or so and I nothing. So I gave up that.
Yeah, there's some things you got to be a little more conscious for those.
Yeah, I realized. But I'll give it a go. Why not? If I could do it while I sleep, then definitely. But
it's commanding another language. So there's a few people, and maybe Thomas, when you, Jimmy, have heard about this, of people having these pop activations where suddenly they're speaking multiple languages. They're hearing their children, and they end up going to the hospital going, I don't know what's going on with me. And then finally they figure it out, like, oh, this is what's going on. So I think that we'll be tapping into a lot more of these coming up. I know that those that I'm connected to closely, I can definitely feel their energy. I can feel when something's going on. Sometimes words, we've been practicing sending messages. Get home. Did you get my message? Or they'll send a message back before I actually send a voice memo, and they're like, hey, do you need this done? I'm like, yes. It's working.
A lot of times it'll be, for me, it can be a little chaotic because I can hear people's thoughts. It's not like by command, but it can happen it's been happening for like a while, probably a couple of years, but a lot more lately. But I'll be literally eating somewhere and I can, like, someone will look at me and I'll pick it up and look at them and I can hear their thoughts and I'm like, oh Jesus, what are these people thinking? But I'm like, I can't call them out on it.
Yeah. Do you think that's because I'd see a bit of Bashar stuff, I'd sort of take it, use the sermon. But he says that everything that we see and we create for the purposes of us. So we are the only ones in our universe, so to speak, and everything is kind of we've created and is a reflection of what we need to do or whatever. So if we can hear someone else's thoughts, then that's because it's actually our thoughts because we've created it because it's a part of us. Do you see what I mean? So we're not hearing someone else's thoughts. We're actually hearing our thoughts in them because that's what we've created for ourselves. Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's absolutely one way to look at it. 100%.
Yeah, it's one way. I don't know whether it's the case or not. I mean,
well, there is a unified conscious field in quantum physics, so everyone's connected to each other. But I don't know with Bashar. I'm so on the fence with that guy. I've been that way for so long. I just don't know what to think about him. I'm like, I don't know, like, if you're telling me the truth or not, man. Like, I'm just like, that doesn't even resonate. But I still think he's a gray alien. Anyways, that's my opinion.
There you go. I don't follow him. I'm like, doesn't resonate. So if it doesn't resonate, I don't follow.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. We get bits and pieces from here and there. But one thing that I wanted, there's a saying, and I picked up from an old British sitcom that I really enjoy called Jeeves and Wooster, and it's we don't fear what we despise, insofar as kind of if you don't like someone or something, then you don't show no fear towards it, and so I was just wondering. Is obviously fear is considered to be how do you view fear? Is it a tool that we can use? Is it something that we should avoid and we should look to change? So rather than fear something, we should look to sort of change that energy into something else. How do you view fear?
So as a avid extreme sports enthusiast over the years in my life, because that was an active meditation for me, because I had that kind of high energy that I needed to disperse. Fear can be a tool, absolutely. I just want to tap into what you were saying though about the sitcom and or whatever that British sitcom and speaking to the fact when you don't like something and you don't fear it because you feel you've already claimed what it is, and so why would you fear it? They're not attacking you, right? Yeah. most people's fears are from trying something new, or the subconscious is trying to hold them back because it's new. We don't know this. This is this habitual loop that we're in that's been programmed into us as well through school, education, parents, jobs, that we, you know, kids are meant to be seen and not heard, or suck it up, buttercup, right?
Mm.
All these things that make you play smaller, like you're not enough. And so when you go to step out to be seen, a lot of that can create some fear, or you're trying something new and you don't believe you can do it, then you're going to create some fear around that. So when you move past those fears, great. The only time anyone should really be fearful is if their life is in danger. And even that, I went through that as a thought. I have no idea why. When I was driving the other day, I was like,
Mm.
so if the whole world ended and I was, faced with that death, what would I do? And I'm like, you'd be afraid first. And then it'd be like, but just surrender. Because I know in my soul that this isn't the end. So and then it's like, oh, so if you can get to that point, it's like best adventure game ever. And so you can have a different perspective, but I do believe fear. I mean, a lot of people have a lot more fear programmed in them. Depends on where they're stuck within their system.
Mm.
And so if you're really stuck in you've had some really big trauma in your life, then absolutely you can be stuck there a bit, and you can fear everything, but only you can actually shift it. So, and I say it all the time, and I know Thomas can agree that as healers, what we do is we show the higher self of that other person how to raise that vibration to bring that person into a feeling of healed and wholeness. And then they go back with their regular lives into their patterns, and boom, 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 boom. A lot of the time within a week, 2 weeks, a month, if they don't change, nothing changes. And so I've always been pretty congruent that let's move past this fear. What are you afraid of? Play it out. What's going to happen? Or make a date with worry on Friday afternoon. And when you get to Friday afternoon, you sit down with your book and your list. How many things were relevant? And so if we're sitting in the past, we're depressed. If we're focused on the future, we have anxiety. These are things out of our control. So as much as we can to stay present. And that's not a new teaching, but it takes time and skill set to call your mind back. Oh yeah, we played that one out. That's pretty funny. Clear. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, thanks. And I suppose, but people, and me included, we fear certain things, and it's almost like an instant reaction, instant sort of an instinct sometimes, and especially if it's something new or we're in a situation that we've never dealt with or experienced before. But then it's about sort of calming ourselves down and realizing that everything's kind of going to be okay, even though we might not think it's going to be okay. And obviously there are situations in the world in which horrific things are going on, and people understandably fearful about everything. And so it's kind of, it's not always easy to tell ourselves things are going to be all right. And especially, and that obviously is played upon hugely in certain channels, shall we say.
Yes.
And that was what we were talking about earlier before we came on, about certain channels and all of the fear porn and stuff like that we see that plays upon people's kind of thirst for something new, and always seeking outside of themselves for someone to come and save them, because they fearful of sort of almost like saving themselves in a sense.
Because we've never been taught to do that. So, I think the number one thing, Zechariah asked a question, Zach, what piece of advice that you recommend everyone should be doing, especially at this time of awakening? And this is my response to that as well. What can you control? What can you do? And get out in nature, like get out there, because nature always nurtures. If you go outside and you leave the phone alone and you listen to the birds and you look at the trees, there's so many benefits to nature. Go sit by a river. It's super cleansing. Get yourself grounded, get your bare feet, or get your hands on a tree, or electromagnetic beings. We've talked about this before as well with Thomas on our show, that people underestimate that we are nature. Everything you eat, hopefully, I'm not eating like biolab meat, thanks. Everything you drink, which should be also high quality things, and the air you breathe. it is nature. We are nature. We came in these bodies through nature. And so we're part of this infinite source of everything, and we're all intrinsically connected, that nature will always nurture you. So for me, I'm outside every day for a bit, whether I'm sun gazing in the morning or the evening, or whether I'm lying out in the sun, because for me, especially for my being, I take it into my cells. So we spent 6 weeks in Mexico and I didn't burn, and it was hot. And Norm was like, how can you not be burning? And then she went, oh, you're soaking it right through. Because I've always sang that little cell song. Every little cell in my body is healthy. So I sing that every day. And it's like, come on, soak it up, guys. Yeah. So it's just, what can you control? If something is out of my control, and yes, there's war, and yes, it's absolutely horrific, some of the things being played out. And I look at the whole realm, so to speak, that we're in, as the collective took it this dark with the free will. But what is the opposite of this dark? How high can we go into, the brightness and the being and the light? So the opposite of this will be that.
I think people need to. So what I'm saying is people are literally being programmed from every angle right now.
Yes,
and I don't think
they're desperate.
any chance by accident. And the more people get into this vibration of rage and like battling each other. I was talking to my friend about this a week ago when we were eating dinner, and I was like, imagine how crazy it is on the internet, but imagine if it spills out to everyday walking life. And people start going crazy. I was like, I think that's what whoever these people are trying to do. They're trying to make people start, whether it's TikTok bans or this, it's always something. And then the clip that's coming on the 8th that's supposed to destroy the world. I'm like, I don't care. Like, people are like, what do you think about the eclipse? I don't care. I don't care. I care more about people getting to a point where they're going to actually. I feel like even 1,000 people could totally change the frequency of the whole planet.
And they are. There's many out there.
I don't know why.
There's many out there that don't go live at all. They're just doing and being what they know they're here to do and be, which is beautiful. It is part of the requirement. And then there's those of us doing this work that are trying to reach those ready to hear and see a new perspective, a new way of being. And that's we all have our mission, so to speak, to remember who we truly are, and then to be a beacon of light for others to also be honored to do that. And then there's those that are fighting the darkness with the light. And we're all resonating the light right now. Everyone on this chat. Yeah.
I am and obviously there's so much going around on social media, and you see a lot of the sort of the best and the worst, if I can say that, of humanity. But I do wonder, I just thought the other day that if things were, say, for example, we look in history, and if you believe what we're told about history, and I'm very dubious about that, and that's a big, if what occurred in history with the Dark Ages and all of the medieval stuff and all of that, I mean, like I say, from the research that I've done and what I feel like we've been lied to hugely about history. But if that did go on, imagine if there was social media around then with all of the things. I think it would be crazier than what it is now. So, in a sense, if all of that did happen, then I feel like we are certainly making progress, shall we say. So even though it may seem like a crazy time now, going by what we're told happened in history, then it's nothing really. So, but
well, go ahead.
Well, like even I tell people this. So everything that's happening in the world, number one, we have electricity, we have running water, we have food readily available. Now, imagine if you were living with the Mongolians in that time, where a third of the world's population was decimated. I mean, you couldn't even compare what's happening now to what was happening then. Literally, they killed a third of the world's population. I mean, insanity. people wouldn't even know what to do. So, I mean, these things have repeated throughout history over and over again. Some people believe that, I don't know, Jimmy, if you've researched this, but there have been loops. So, like, I remember, I mean, it was David Icke, it was somebody I listened to years and years ago, but there was like Hannibal did the exact same trek as Hitler. Like, there's all these people that have had the exact same things over and over throughout history. And it just, I'm like, are we just replaying loops over and over again? Like, or maybe that's programmed, I'm hearing from my guides. Into us, who knows? I mean, it's like trying to a puzzle that's missing like 50 pieces and trying to figure out what it means.
Yeah. I believe, and for me, you know, history proves a lot, right? So, and I follow quite a bit on the astrology front, not that I claim to be an astrologist whatsoever, but you can see the pattern of the universe, right? And we're always on a spiral. So in a way it is a loop, but I don't believe that we have the mind programming loops for sure that keep us in a specific reality, but the whole universe is going like this. So as we go through this and I look at the history, I'm like, I think right now it was the fall of the Roman Empire. And I'm like, yeah, awesome. So it is chaotic because it's a cornered animal right now trying to regain control and losing control every day. It's done, but they're still going to attempt. And it seems like Monday might be a pretty big attempt, but I've just been laughing at it because I'm like, it just is. It's already done in my opinion. And what's most important is that we keep holding our frequency, our vibration high. So the frequency we're sending out helps to lift everyone else. Yeah. So I don't really have any fear. And I look at things like the war and I'm like, yeah. And it sucks. And the children, it sucks. But that's soul new coming in. And this probably is like, I look at the children, I'm like, oh man, they probably came in, took that, I'll take that assignment. And in taking that assignment, they catapulted their soul through so much growth because of that experience. So again, the darker the experience, the more light you get to have on the other side, so to speak, or moving forward. And so this is why I think a lot of us went through some really shitty, dark times in our lives. Why? So that we could be here now to have this frequency at this time and in this space to hold it and to be that guiding light for others. It's like I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice to do anything else. I mean, it was way easier to run a painting company than to try and create all this new stuff. It's fun as hell, but
it was way easier for me to do dust control than to do this job. And I've said that. I said to my friend, I was like, I could just go back to pest control. And she's like, you can't do
that. Right? You just can't. Yeah.
It's hard to go back, I must admit. But I guess I guess we'll go where we need to go, I suppose. But it's something that once mind you, there are some people who kind of, and I'm not sure if it's just a general sort of community that pushes them away, or whether they see things that they don't like or that they no longer resonate with. Because I know I've seen a few people who come into the spiritual community and then they just they're not. They don't resonate, or it seems like it's changed, and there's not all the love and light that they experience, or that they thought it was going to be. And there's a lot of infighting and backstabbing and all of that, and it's kind of like portrayed to be this this heaven on earth sort of mindset or whatever, and it's far from it. It's just the same human experience, but in a different setting almost. So yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see.
Well, I can honestly say that if you pay attention to how people make you feel, truly make you feel, you got to be connected, mind, body, and spirit, or you're definitely going to get ping-ponged around a bit. And so if you go by how people truly make you feel, how does their message resonate with you? If somebody's all love and light and never talks about shadow or darkness, I'm like, it doesn't resonate for me, because that's the aspect that I'm like, well, no, there's definitely shadow work that needs to be done per se. But also that one doesn't need to be on a constant healing loop outside of themselves. So my mission is to really instill within the people to find the power within themselves and to realize their potential and their abilities. And so if you're following somebody like you're following a Hollywood star, or would have been following a Hollywood star and putting them on a pedestal, you will eventually be disappointed. So I was like, I'm no different. This is why I put everyone in circles. I'm not a fan of like stages. I love being in circles. Like we're in a circle right now, or we're in a line, but you know what I mean? We're co-creating something and having a discussion, and it's open and it's raw and it's honest. And it's not pre-planned, and we're not claiming to be anything that we're not. And so I just think when you're honest and you're authentic, you don't have, you're never going to resonate with everybody. I get lots of people. I did one on spirituality and religion. I was very kind because I got nothing against religion. If that's your thing, go for it. It's just, but do know these perspectives that I'm seeing on it right now and have been seeing for years. And this one guy went off on me and I just smiled and was like, yeah, that's your right. I'm not wasting my energy on it. I'm just going to sit back here. So you have to have pretty thick skin to toughen some of these things out on this division, because it's part of the play. There are people inserted specifically to come in and hijack what this, when they saw this happening and New Age is the new cage and it's the new religion. I don't call it any of that. It's inner work. You really need to, everybody should be driving everyone back into themselves to get to know themselves better and get really connected with their mind, body, and soul so that they can operate for their highest good on their own. And yes, there's guidance for sure and support 100%. But, we get some people in one of our groups that come back with retaliation that we're not solving it for them. And I'm like, not what we're going to do. This is your experience. I'm just giving you a perspective that you might not be seeing, that we hope will spark a little click that you can see it from another perspective. And sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't, and that's okay. I
think you see those things. I mean, my friend talked to me about he wanted, so I mentioned him before, he had a near-death experience and he met Jesus and all this, and he's like, you know what, I don't read my Bible too much, I want to go to church, I want to go to Bible study. Let me check it out. So he went there and he was like, and he may see this later, but he was like, they were trying to get them to pay for a Lamborghini. And he's like, it doesn't make any sense. And then they talked about Unity Church, which none of you really know about, but it's a huge church. It's not Christian, but it's like a non-denominational, accept all church. And this prophet came out and was like, you're cursed because your mother messed with witchcraft. And he had to think about it. And the guy was like, she went to Unity. And he was like, I am in the wrong place. And he's like, I'm getting out of here. But that's my point, is that it's like religion in itself, because I don't feel like Jesus came here. I feel like he came to be an example of what someone could be, or the Buddha, or any of these people. And that came and attained this level of consciousness. But it just, people are using it as a savior to save themselves, but not taking any responsibility for it.
100%. And so much of the Bible was rewritten, right, by the Council of Nicaea. So it's part of that programming. And again, being I believe we're the only planet, I don't know for a fact because I haven't traveled to all of them recently, but with this free will thing that just, we got a little too controlled, and, the hunt for monatomic gold, greed. It's like, interesting. And so I just observe it all. Yeah, because as soon as you start attaching emotions to it, now you're giving your power away. You got somebody that's constantly, and I'm supposed to say this. So when you have an expectation of how somebody or something else is going to behave, you're giving your power away. Because you're the one with the expectation. What if you just go in open-minded and I wonder what this experience will show me? Like I said, we don't pre-plan these. I just come in open. Like, what do we need to talk about? Let's talk about it. What would you like to discuss? And if I had a preconceived notion, it's going to go like this and it has to be like this, the same way I host these retreats that I do, We've got one coming up at Vedette Lake for anybody in BC or Alberta, and that's an energy vortex there. But I'm just like, don't have a firm expectation, because depending on who shows up, depending on what the weather's like, and depending on what everyone needs, we create the container as we go. Like, it's all set up energetically, but we adjust as we go based on what people want and need. And it makes it a really beautiful experience, because it's never the same way twice. I don't have, there's no rules. You want to go now, you go now. You want to go outside for a walk on your own, go outside for a walk on your own. Whatever you need to do for you, empowering people to have a new way of looking at life and to incorporate new habits.
I mean, I presume there are exceptions to do whatever we need to do, as in do cause no harm to another person, etc. It's not just a sort of a free fall. If you want to make some evil or whatever, then sort of you're not free to do that, so to speak. Although being on a free will planet, if we are in a free will planet, then who's to say that that's not acceptable? But that's another thing, that the free will thing is kind of like, well, is there? Do we have free will? Obviously,
we're programmed to think we have free will.
Yeah,
it depends on where you are in the life. Yeah, depends on where you're at. I have free will.
Is it really good and evil? That's the question I keep asking myself. Is it, because it's really a subjective understanding based upon the individual, what is good and evil. So, like, even with me, you talk about horror movies and whatever. People like what they like. It doesn't matter to me. But ever since I've been a kid, it's probably why I watch horror movies now. But is that evil? Is it good? It's like, it's so confusing to me. But I think it's only based on the person and the perspective that they're in. I mean, I think Earth is like a Wild West planet. And that's why we keep coming back, because we can do whatever we want to do. And there isn't like stipulations like on, the Andromedans that they like to fight a lot, but like, or the Syrians, there's other stipulations, but they're much more advanced than us by billions and billions of years. So, but with us, it's like we're just this Wild West thing that can go any which way.
So quite primitive in a lot of the activities that we're sort of ushered into and made to, sort of like sports, for example, to create competition and stuff like that. That sort of keeps us in a primitive mind state where we're in competition with someone else and we have to beat them and all of that kind of stuff. So it keeps us in that, I don't know, that reptilian brain mindset or whatever it is. Not that I know much about the sort of the psychology of all of that kind of thing, but I wonder about free will and good and evil, and what really is it, and if there actually is good and evil, or whether that's just something that we're led to believe that there isn't, in order to let the evil ones do the business. If you see what I mean. So
yeah, I see what you mean.
Thinking too much. We tend to overthink a lot of the time, don't we? And well, I do anyway. People are in the same boat, but I can only speak for myself, obviously.
Absolutely. I think we have a lot more free will than people give themselves credit for. It's just they're not able to see past what they see, and there's a lot of people that are very distraught over there's evil in the world. Can't you see it? And it's like, is it really important that they see it? When they're ready to see it, if they want to see it, they'll see it. Or if they're ready to look inward, they'll look inward. I think we've all had dark times here. I think we've all been perpetrators, so to speak. It's part of your soul path and it's part of your soul growth, to the best of my understanding of it all. And so then you become a little more accepting. It's like, and I keep saying, I don't mean to shrug it off, but it is. So if it is, then what can I control and what can I do for self to feel better about myself or to support others? And what do I want to focus on? Do I want to focus on all that crap? I've always been, even when I was involved in the Truther movement, I'm still called a spiritual advisor, and I'll pop videos in just to give them another perspective of like, remember, right? This, and this, just to remind them, like, take care of you first. It's me first. Even with my daughter, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I just started saying, no, me first. and then I'll do that for you. So I started to put myself first for the first time in my life versus putting my business first, employees first, Jade first, X first, like whatever was going on was always giving to the point where I would be depleted. So when I started to fill my own cup, which is what everyone can be doing right now, is fill your own cup first. And then do you need to help somebody else? You just need to hang out with a friend and hold space for them. Just listen to what they have to say, because most people just want to be heard. You don't need to fix it for them. They're not looking to be fixed. They just need to be heard. And when they speak it out loud and they say it and hear it differently, because now they're saying it out loud, so now they can physically hear it, they see it gives a perspective change. It's like, oh yeah. And quite often just holding your energy with them is a beautiful way of being super supportive. And maybe that's all you're called to do, is support those around you. Where can you reach out in your community? We all have what matters to us and what is important to us. So I don't think there's any right or wrong way about it, but I do think focusing on the fear porn is really draining. Giving your power away.
Like we often go really far one way, and then we feel like we need to go really far the other. And I suppose that is necessary in order to find out what sort of find the balance point in the middle almost. So like, for example, you've concentrated on everyone else, and then so therefore now it's time for you to concentrate on yourself, and then eventually you'll come back to a place which is balance. Where you can think, right, I can know when to go which way, and when to give to others and when to give to myself. So you have that experience of knowing which is which. And I found that personally, that's the way that I've learned, shall we say, is to go to extremes sort of thing, and in a sense, but I guess we all learn different ways.
I think most people learn that way through experience, because only once you experience something can you know it for a fact to be true for yourself. Right. Yeah. And so definitely too far masculine, and then a little too far feminine, like, just be kind and loving to everyone, right? Everyone's okay. And now there's a balance in between that where it's like, yeah, I'm not taking your shit, but I love you still.
And also, do you find that have you always had an antipathy, shall we say, to being told what to do, or do you find that antipathy has grown the more you've kind of realized that you need to give more to yourself?
I think being a person, a soul that came into this lineage that I've come into of complete addicts and a bit of abusiveness on both sides, to just never fitting in. I never felt like I fit in. We moved a lot when I was a kid, and I always felt like I didn't belong. And so then people pleasing was a good solution for that, because then I felt like I belonged somewhere. Yeah. Right. And so then once you kind of cull that back, and I mean, I've had girlfriends break up with me. I'm like, oh, we're breaking up, are we? Don't know what that's about. And they're like, well, you're not behaving the way I need you to behave. And I'm like, I can't, I'm not going to conform myself to fit your needs. You need to fill your needs yourself. And so once you go through this process and you realize, oh, only I'm responsible for me. And if everyone said I'm responsible for me first, I take responsibility for all my words, my actions, and start taking responsibility for those thoughts and start to reprogram them, then we'd be moving along a lot quicker. But people are still pointing fingers. It's their fault. It's his fault. It's her fault. They're playing the victim. They're still rescuing, or they're actually the perpetrator being abusive because it's all they've known in their life. And it gives them a sense of power and it makes them feel good. So, and then they feel bad afterwards. And then I'm so sorry, right? Like there's patterns. What are your patterns? What are your personal loops? As Thomas was saying, are we stuck in a loop? What are those loops that you're stuck in? Because only you can change those loops. Yeah.
And a lot of times I think they give the illusion of choice. So even in politics, religion, whatever, it's like you're given 2 or 3 choices. And people, through tribalism, will go to those different choices, thinking they actually have a choice in the matter, what they don't have a choice at all. They're just choosing a side, thinking they're making a change. I see this in politics all the time. And
it's pretty rampant at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm like, here we go again. I was like, you guys will literally fight to the bitter. It's like the Knights Templar I'm hearing. So it's like you'll fight to the bitter end if you feel like the cause is just enough.
Mm.
Yeah. What are you really fighting for?
Yeah.
And that's a role to play too, right? If you just observe everything and you actually start to ask, show me the truth, show me the truth, show me the truth, because everybody's truth is going to be individual. And so when I look at things and I listen to them and people, I don't know, we had something in Canada, this carbon tax has come out, right? And they've added another 23% on the carbon tax, given all the PMs and the all raise, like serious raises, thousands and thousands of dollars. I think 8,000 and up to 17,000. I'm like, I just laugh because I find it really entertaining because it's like watching a movie. Oh, now they're doing that. Look at that. Oh, that's pretty funny. Because I'm not taking it personally, but it is really affecting a lot of people to suddenly stand up and go, well, I'm not going to take this anymore. Now that's an opening for them to realize they've never had control. So maybe these points are actually these people doing this. It's a gift because it's going to get more people to realize that, oh, I choose my reality and I don't choose to do that anymore. I know lots of people that have left Canada and moved to Mexico, for example. I'm like, that's one way. No matter where you go, there you are. So I'm not running away from anything. I definitely don't want to be here in the winter months per se, but I'm also just observing what's going on. And there's some pretty interesting political things happening where it's like, I don't think normally a lot of people would get away with what they're getting away with saying and speaking about. And they said they were going to slam down on all the Facebook and you're not going to be able to talk about this. That hasn't happened. So, they have to have enough buy-in for things to become a reality. It has to have enough attention and energy towards the positivity of it. Now, this whole, in Canada, for example, we have more trees than we have occupied land. There's more forestry. What is this? What are you trying to do? Kill all the trees or kill us? Which one? Right? So, you have to look at common sense is gone. So a lot of what I'm teaching is common sense and trying to get people to understand, like, so if you go down that path, take it all the way. What is the solution? What is the end? Play it out. And then come on back and see if you got a new perspective by then. Yeah.
Yeah. I was told by a friend that apparently the population of Canada is pretty much roughly the same as the population of the UK, and we're an 8th or 16th or smaller land wise than you, and that's because you've so much nature, so many forests and trees and everything. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Spend a lot of time in the woods. It's a good place to live, honestly, because it's 5 minutes up the hill for me, and I can be in the woods with running water and all the animals. There's birds I feed outside. We've got the neighborhood cats that hang out. We've got my cat. We've got the crows that were having a big battle the other day, and there's an eagle. Like, it's all in your perspective, but the way they're portraying this is just, it's not all true in fact.
Have you come across any bears?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Hello, Mr. Bear. You can have the trail. I'm just going to turn around and go this way. Yeah, he was coming down, and I thought it was a dog at first because he turned around and was like, that was a really big bum for a dog. And literally, he was 20 feet in front of me, and I was like, yeah, you can have this space, but my car was only like 50 feet behind me. So I didn't run. I didn't run because you don't run. And I've been on a trail with someone, too, and ran into a bear. And all three of us were jumping up and down and yelling. And he was on this trail, and we went to go past the trail to where he was, or he or she, and was standing on the side looking at us like it was observing us. I don't know what you guys are so wiggy about. Like, just do your shit. And my girlfriend was up in arms. She was losing it. And I'm like, she started running. I'm like, don't run. So yeah, I've run into them in Whistler. We used to have baby bears come up to the restaurant I worked at and like look in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And they're all at the dump. We call them the welfare bears because all the bears are like easy food. Oh yeah, you want to go watch the welfare bears? We would go down there and watch them because people from Australia live there. They never seen a bear. So I'm like, I know how to show you a bear.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I mean, in the UK, we don't really have anything like bears or anything like that. But we don't really have any sort of wild, dangerous animals at all.
No, just people.
Yeah, that's true.
We all have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst I'll see over here is like wolves and stuff. But yeah, it's because we're near the mountains and all that. So there's black bears, but I don't think I've come across any. Even camping out in the middle of nowhere.
You've done a bit of camping, haven't you, in your time?
Yeah, I'll go into the middle of nowhere for like 3 days and sit there.
Mm.
That's
Any
a good way to
plans?
connect with self.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, got any plans to do any more camping?
Not yet. It's about to get hot. I was looking at Savannah's weather. It looks like it's about to turn around. Savannah will be a first indicator. And I was like, okay, I can go camping now. But it's too cold right now. Give it about 2 weeks, I feel. Then things will shift.
Yeah.
You a camping fan, Tanya?
I used to camp quite a bit. I used to do even some backcountry ski touring, hiking, and now I'm like, I really like a bed. So I definitely have a vehicle I can put a mattress in, but no, I think I'd rather have a bed. So I tend to, I'm not roughing it as much, but I used to do a lot of serious climbing where, you're sleeping where you're sleeping and you're achy and sore in the morning. I've done trips to Vegas where we camped the whole time and rock climbed every day. And it's really uncomfortable by the end of the trip. You're like, I'm not only am I sore, I'm absolutely exhausted because you don't sleep as well, right? So it just depends on the person. Yeah. Yeah. And we've had bears outside of our tent, even up at Alice Lake, which is just here between here and Whistler, which is up the highway. And as we're pulling up, I was there with my mom, my second cousins, and Jade. And I think my mom, no, we didn't have a dog at that point. Did we have a dog? Anyways, we're pulling up to Alice Lake turn off. And this bear comes barreling out of the woods at full tilt. I slam on the brakes. And like, it comes to the side of the road and goes whoop and looks both ways. I'm like, so this is where we're camping, kids. And so you had to put your cooler in the car and pay attention, but definitely heard the sniffing at night. And some people got kicked out because they didn't put their stuff away. So yeah. Yeah, we're really in their territory. That's the way I look at it. They were here first. Yeah. 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 Didn't realize how many bear stories I had.
Yeah, no, I don't have any. I wouldn't, I suppose. But
yeah. And definitely. So Thomas, when you go in nature, is it just to be and meditate?
Yeah, I might take some greenery with me and just sit there for 3 days. I'll bring my phones in case I need them, but other than that, I'll just sit there like all day long. But I'll go to the river. We have rivers, like massive rivers, waterfalls everywhere. So I mean, it's a mountains. So I'll go. A lot of times, I'll just go. I'll get a hotel, and then I'll spend the whole day, or I'll just sleep in my car, and I'll spend the whole day just swimming in the rivers.
Yeah, that can be really cleansing for sure. And water has memory, so you're picking up all kinds of info at the same time.
Yeah. No alligators or crocodiles or anything like that.
Oh, none of that. You got some snakes and stuff. I never see them, but and maybe some black widows in the rocks and stuff like that. But I did pest control for a while. I'm not afraid of it. So. But yeah, so like it's just I'll go by myself. I'll just go by myself and just sit there.
Why not?
Yeah.
If they let me, I would camp there. But they would probably kick me out.
I remember seeing a video the other day of some guys who went camping and they opened their tent flap or whatever, and there was, I don't know, a load of alligators just outside waiting for them, staring at them. I don't know what they did, but I can't imagine that's what you want to see first thing in the morning.
Well, that'd be like Florida. So that's a state over. There's pythons, there's alligators everywhere. There's sharks. But over in Georgia, there's no. The sea's 5 hours away, so
yeah, all the sharks are in Atlanta. Yeah. I'd be curious to ask you guys. So, how have you been feeling about your activations? Are you getting more gifts? Are you sleeping? What's going on for your bodies and minds right now?
Everybody's been sleeping a lot lately, I've noticed. Either they're not sleeping. I mean, I have. Dear God, sometimes it's like 12 hours.
Holy Toledo.
And it can be discombobulating too, because it can be all hours of the day. Because with my job, I could work, I could work this time or this time or this time. I could go in the morning. But yeah, the last few weeks, some days it's like the sleep patterns are so off. I think a lot of it has to do with people are not leaving their houses. So they're literally like holed up. Even when I look for spiritual events, a lot of them are on Zoom. And I'm like, can I just meet some people, please?
Come
yeah,
visit.
Yeah, road trip.
All the way to Canada.
It's like a 4-hour flight.
Okay.
Maybe 5 hours.
I'm afraid of flying. I don't know why I've done it, but I just don't like it. It scares me.
Did you die in a plane crash?
Probably something. I was afraid of the sea until Carl convinced me till I was like 40 years old. Till he get to Panama City, he's like, just come out here. And ever since then, I don't even care. So I just get in like 6 feet of ocean water, and people looking at me like I'm crazy sitting out there. But I'm like, if something's gonna attack me, I'm gonna feel it coming at me. So
yeah, I have no fear of either water or flying. I always look at, and I find little planes all the time. I always look at flying as like going into a portal, and all the crazy things you hear have mostly been like done on purpose. So I actually think we're really safe flying. Yeah, even though
I would do it.
Ancient.
Just, I would rather than drive all the way to Canada. That would be insanity. It'd probably take like 15, 20 hours of driving.
More like 24.
Yeah, but I like the driving though, because on all these trips I've gone on, like Louisiana, Mississippi, it's something interesting about just going through these. I just like to see people in different areas and how they live, because it gives me a perspective that I have no idea about until I get there. And then when I talk to them, it's like I'm going through all these different little areas, and I'll stop at like random locations just to kind of get a feel of the area. But yeah, it's interesting because our only perspective is what we're in. So like even being in Atlanta, like it's a perspective. But then when you, like my friend who's lived all over the world, he's like, dude, he's like, if I was making as much money as you, Thomas, I'd be living in Costa Rica right now. I'd be on the beach drinking pina coladas. He's like, dude, he goes, I've been all over the world. He's like, this is jacked up. You need to get out of here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Like you have no idea.
Yeah, Costa Rica is beautiful. When we were down in Yucatan, Mexico, we were just above Belize, which is also beautiful. Yeah, it's a great area. Yeah.
Oh, yes, Maureen says Mayan energy, powerful Mayan energy in Belize.
All through that area. And actually there was quite the energetic cleanup going on at the time. So yeah, the whole time we were down there, sunset, sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, sunrise, really activating, which can be quite beneficial. And every time I closed my eyes, it was being shown stuff about kids, and we could see it in the clouds, and there'd be really big storms. It was like, oh, that was a big clearing. And then one day, usually when you're at the ocean, the wind's always coming off the ocean on shore. And then one day it was going the other way. All the clouds are going the other way. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So it just fascinating to observe, and then checking in and, all right, how am I feeling today? Oh, I nap almost every day. If I'm not napping, then I'm down out in the sun, just soaking up some rays and just meditating, napidating. I'm still there, but I'm not there. Finding my center. If you're ever discombobulated, where's your center? Do you know where your center is? Because every time, like a compass, you throw, out your little string and pencil and draw your circle. You got to remember where you came from, where your center is. Yeah. How about for you, Jimmy? Any upgrades going on for you?
Not. I don't really notice things like that. As such, I kind of just carry on and do stuff. I haven't really been noticed that I've been sleeping any more or any less. I've just built a sort of a copper tube pyramid around around my bed. So I thought I'd give that a go because I saw that and I like the idea. I mean, you've been to Egypt, you've been to pyramids and everything like that, so you know all about that kind of stuff. But I thought I'd give that a go. That's pretty cool. But other than that, it's just the same. Like I said to you before, I want to take a step back from certain things just because I've been doing them for so long, or long for me anyway, a few years. But other than that, it's just more observing, like you say, just observing things, and rather than getting involved and sort of contributing to all the arguments that you see going on all over the place. Just feel like watching, being a watcher. So, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. You're doing everything right. I see you quite often. You used to do posts where you were in the woods.
Oh yeah, I like going to the woods. Some woods nearby. Going there, just sitting in a tree. Sometimes I'd meditate in the tree, and I don't think I fell asleep. I probably shouldn't fall asleep in a tree because it's about, I don't know, 7 or 8 feet up. It might be a bit of a rude awakening if I was to fall asleep. But yeah, it's nice to get out, and I think. Do you feel like the energy of say the forests and everything has changed over the last year or so, or because obviously you spend a lot of time in nature?
I believe that the nature is a reflection of us. Where are we at in the collective? And so, I even noticed, there's a lot of trees that look sad, right? Like they look a little more not as healthy as they should be. And so that's I think a direct reflection of what's going on in the collective, especially in the area that you're in. So I just try and, go through and focus on, how can I contribute to be positive, right? And I think acknowledging is huge. Norma Jean's a seer, and we went for a walk to White Lake, and there's these really big, old, like huge boulders. I've done that hike, I don't know, probably 20, 25 times. And I'm like, I never really paid attention to these boulders. I'm sorry, boulders. I see you now. And so as we're discussing it and where they came from and where they shifted from, and she was getting the message that, oh yeah, they've been here since the comet and the divide, and that's why it's split this way, and that's why they're here and they're here, and why the water came up right here. And so it's quite fascinating to have someone to share perspectives with, because I'm the knower and she's the seer, and so it's a good balance that way. It creates interesting conversations.
Yeah. I wonder if the trees are sad because we're taking all of their food source, the carbon dioxide, out of them. But I don't know.
No, I think it's the stress and anxiety and depression within the collective is a direct reflection, right? Because it's all interwoven. So I actually go out and talk quite a bit to the mycelium and to the water, because it's going to generate the most in the ether. And I can see the ether right now really easily. So I don't know if anyone else is viewing ether, but I'm checking the ether out all the time.
No, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, excellent.
It changes density. It changes the way it moves. It's like, oh, interesting. So when you start again to observe, you can almost get your own little reading going on. Has anyone else noticed that the stars are closer than they've ever been? The sun has changed. The moon is closer. What's going on with that? Oh, I believe it's the magnet, and that magnet, as it gets stronger, which is Earth, we're closing in. It's getting smaller. So not unlike, your own orbit per se, right? So it's getting more condensed, and in that we're all being squeezed to some level, whether it's nature or not. Yeah. Thomas, any thoughts on that one?
I think the whole world's about to go insane. That's what I'm feeling.
Saying in the membrane.
What I'm trying to say without saying it, I have a feeling that Planet X is very close to us.
Yeah.
I don't think people quite understand what that means yet, but they will.
Someone showed the sun and the other one, through a special kind of filter to a camera or something like that. They showed it, and they were quite close together. And I've seen stuff that says that that's actually what eclipses the sun and not the moon, and all of that. We just told us the moon because that we have to be told that, or whatever, because that we can't know about the other one. But yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Right. And so how does knowing or thinking one way or the other, all it does is give energy to it. So, and this is why I keep saying, just keep your energy close to you right now.
Just observe.
Really focus on yourself, because that's, and your family and your pets and the nature around you and your neighbors, like what's important to you right now. Yeah. Because people are really, you want to talk about depressed. Why are they depressed? Because they're either not dealing with the shit in their body that's all trapped within them that has caused dis-ease within the body. They're not eating well, which can also cause anxiety and depression. Or they're consuming too much information and believing everything to be truth, when actually we all create our own reality.
Therein lies the key. So with TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, the trend now, and I realized what happened with TikTok in the beginning. Everyone found it so fascinating. They got so much dopamine, but now they're not getting their dopamine that way. Like it's run out. So but they're trying other ways to get it by fighting with each other. And I'm like, you cannot stare at a phone. I mean, people used to watch TV, but they didn't sit there and watch TV for 10 hours straight. But now it's become like they're addicted to something where there's no payoff while they're scrolling. And they're trying to keep
sucking their energy.
Yeah. So I'm just like, you guys need to get off this app, man. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to get off of it, but it's like, consume it. Like, there's literally a button in TikTok that says, tell me I've been on here for an hour. And then it goes off and it shuts it off. You're like, okay, cool. There's a button on Facebook like that. So I think that's kind of what's happening too. There's so much distraction. I think people are searching, as you said earlier, for connection, human connection, in any way, shape, or form. And they're not getting it. And then people are afraid. And then I hear about all these teenagers that are like they can't even talk to anyone in public because they're having like panic attacks. I've heard this so many times. And I'm like, exposure therapy, because my methods could be a little crazier than most, but I'm like, expose them to a bunch of people and make them talk to them. They'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and to realize that they created that, right? That you're creating your reality. So, people will only change if they choose to change, and only often when they hit rock bottom, they're desperate. Then they'll change. And that's part of the human condition as well. It's part of being human. Yeah.
And all will be revealed, I guess, in due course. So, whether we know what's going to happen or whether we don't know what's going to happen, it's still going to happen.
Right.
But speaking of connection, do you want to, before we say goodbye, do you want to just remind us where we can find you and what Adventures for Connection?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Tanya Powell, and you can see the spellings Tanja. You can find me all over online. I've never hidden my name. I've been like, I'm just here. And so I don't have different usernames on different platforms, which makes it really hard when some followers are coming on some way in one name and then they're on another one. So it's a really easy way to find. I did create Adventures for Connection for getting people first connected with themselves, mind, body, and spirit, masculine, feminine, balance yourself, and then get connected also with like-minded people. And so the website's undergoing a bit of an upgrade at the moment, but we do lives several times a week. And as I mentioned, I'd like to have you both back on when you're ready. Good. And different people are coming on. So we're giving different perspectives and creating something new. And one of the things that isn't on the website yet that I've been working on, I'd love to share, is that many people have taken maybe a healing course or, some sort of mediumship, something to better themselves, but then they don't have any way to practice and don't know how to make a business out of it or how to generate abundance from it. And so I'm working on creating that. I've got a plethora of years. My entire life, I've been an entrepreneur. Again, I didn't want to fit in and follow rules. Even when I worked in someone else's business, I always ran the business the way I wanted to, and they never questioned it because it always worked out. So I have this capacity to be able to read for people, see their benefits, where their assets are. I've got somebody coming up as a pet healer that I'm working with, and somebody else as an addiction counselor. And we'll be introducing them on the platform to bring people through mini online courses, but once a week connection as well. And I think it'll be really beautiful to have that bridge. And then again, these events, which are around the world, we're holding right now, just as we rebuild the structure. And we'll be in Egypt again next spring, so about a year from now. Also in Greece on a flotilla. So we create these different retreats to bring people together, and so that they can have that activation. I got really activated when I went to Egypt. It was huge for me. It was a big shift, and it was what I needed. But I went by myself, and then I set up the container and set it all up. So I tend to go somewhere first, just like I did in Yucatan. We'll be down there hopefully next winter. And go set up the container and then bring people through an experience that just gets them out of their normal routine, reconnected with other people. And once you know something, you can't unknow it. And so once you feel better and you feel more connected, you crave it. And so we get rid of that. I'm just going to hide and I've got anxiety. It's just a built up programming that happened. And we can break that programming down through subconscious reprogramming as well. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Lovely. Right. Anything else, Thomas? You got any?
I have a class on Sunday, but they can check it out on my website. I'm on TikTok so much they can find me.
Okay.
After he just says people are on there 10 hours a day.
They'll find you eventually.
Yeah.
So, right, Tanya, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. It was lovely.
Thomas, as always, and we'll see you soon, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Au revoir.